Okay, I can't believe I'm getting ready to share my 2025 goals with you on the podcast. Not only is time flying, but I think back to when I shared my goals on the podcast for the 2023 year. I am so grateful for another year of the City Girl Savings podcast, but I'm also grateful to have learned long ago that time keeps going. So every opportunity I get to make the most of it, I take full advantage. I've been setting goals for decades, and I have no doubt they've helped me get to where I am today, whether I actually reach those goals that I set or not. Alrighty, we are getting very close to the new year. I am ready to reflect on my progress from goals from this year and share the goals that I have set for 2025. In this episode, I am sharing my personal and business goals for 2025 and giving you an update on my 2024 goals. Hey there, I'm Raya Reeves, and over a decade ago, I turned my life around through budgeting. I went from being an overspender deep in credit card debt to being the founder and full-time money coach of City Girl Savings. Now, I help women work towards their dream life and tap into their financial power one budget at a time. I fully believe you can live a life you love with a budget, and I'm living proof. The weekly City Girl Savings podcast focuses on the intersection of money and the City Girl lifestyle. Join me every week along with some special guests as I share my experiences, advice, and guidance on navigating life and money as an experience-loving millennial. So I want to share that I'm recording this episode about a month and a half before the year ends. So the Virgo in me needs to make sure that I am ahead on my content. So we still have a little bit of time before the year actually ends. Please keep this in mind as I share the progress of my goals from this year, because they can change between now and the time you actually hear this. I do share on the City Girl Savings blogs a year-end goals recap at the last day of the year, and I've been doing this for years, even before the podcast. So if you want to know how things truly turned out with my goals, definitely check that article out. Okay, so let's get to my progress on my 2024 goals. So in episode 134 of the podcast, I did a mid-year goals check-in. And my projections in that episode were pretty off compared to now, but feel free to have a listen to see how things had changed for me mid-year. I'll link to that episode in the show notes in case you want to listen to it. But the first goal that I had personal-wise in 2024 was to walk 10,000 steps a day, Monday through Friday. I was already working out 5 times a week, and incorporate a high-fiber diet and cook once a week. So outside of vacations, I definitely hit my 10K steps goal Monday through Friday. So I'm feeling very confident with that. I did a good job of cooking at least one time per week. I'd say I was about 90% successful with this goal. As far as high fiber, it's definitely always top of mind when I'm planning out what I want to eat for the week, but I didn't do a great job of actually tracking my fiber count. So I can safely say that I did eat more fiber in 2024 than I did last year, but I cannot safely say I actually hit my daily fiber gram count, which is ideally 28 grams. So I definitely want to do better about that in 2025, but we'll get there. The second goal I had in 2024 was to max out my Roth IRA. So for the 2024 contribution limit, that would be $7,000. As of now, I'm at $2,600 contributed to my Roth for 2024, and I don't think I'll be able to max it out. I've had some other financial priorities come up this year that really weren't planned and that have kept me from reaching this goal. It's the first time since I've had this Roth IRA that I haven't maxed it out, so that's a bit of a bummer, but I know I'll do better next year, and I've accepted that this goal won't be achieved, and it just kind of is what it is. The next goal I had was to start therapy by Q2 2024. This goal had been achieved, by my deadline, though very close to the last minute, but I did achieve it. And now I see my therapist 2 times a month. I'm so blessed that my insurance doesn't cap my sessions and I only have to pay $15 per session. I did get an email yesterday, though, saying that's probably going to change for 2025, so I'll need to figure that out. But I have reached this goal and I'm very happy with that. My next goal for 2024 was to practice French once a week. I would say I was pretty good with this goal the first half of the year. I mean, outside of vacations or busy times in the business, I definitely practice French once a week. Unfortunately, after August, I fell off. It wasn't that I forgot to do it because I actually have a weekly recurring task to practice French in my Asana, but I just mentally couldn't do it. Like, I knew that if I did practice, I wouldn't retain what I would be learning. So I just didn't do it. I just kind of thought, well, why am I going to, I don't want to say waste my time because that sounds so bad, but essentially, like, why am I going to practice French when I'm not in a mental position to retain what I'm learning? There has been a lot of unexpected things happening this year for me, both good and not so good. So it's taken most of my mental power to navigate those things, my normal life and just business routine. So unfortunately, practicing French regularly got placed on the back burner, and it just kind of is what it is. The next goal I had for 2024 was to plan and take an international vacation. And let me just say, for me personally, my cruise to Mexico does not count. So therefore, this goal was not achieved. I was actually starting to plan a trip to France for 2025, but I got engaged. So that trip is going to be on hold because instead of having a wedding, Wes, my fiance, and I are just going to do a courthouse elopement and take like a 3, hopefully close to 4-week honeymoon vacation all around Europe. So while I still want to plan my tour of France, the European honeymoon is going to take priority because that will come first. And although we're not really clear on timing just yet, that will definitely be the next international trip we take. So this goal was not technically achieved in 2024, but a bigger, better international vacation goal is going to be on the horizon. And the final personal goal that I set for 2024 was to pay off my car. I did this in January, and so this goal has since been achieved, and life without car payments is pretty lovely. So I'm very glad that I prioritized getting that done. Now, I want to share the progress on the 2024 business goals as well. The first goal that the business had for 2024 was to reach 65,000 episode downloads for the year. So that would be an increase of about 1,250 downloads per month. We did not reach this goal. Podcast downloads have dropped pretty drastically. Through my research, I found out this is kind of across the board due to the changes that Apple Podcasts has made. So unfortunately, this goal is nowhere near close to being achieved and will definitely be reevaluated for 2025. The next business goal we had was to reach 7,500 Facebook group members. Very proud to say we did achieve this goal. We've crossed 7,500 Facebook group members with the Summer Savings Challenge back in June. And at the time of this recording, we're at 8,025 members. So that's pretty exciting. If you are on Facebook and you're not in the City Girl Savings Facebook group, I highly, highly recommend you join it. It's such an amazing interactive community. So many people just sharing thoughts, fears, emotions, tips. It's such a great community if you want to surround yourself with people who are also working to better their finances. Definitely join that. I'll link to it in the show notes. The next business goal we had for 2024 was to have 10,000 newsletter subscribers. So we're not quite at 10,000 at this point in time, just due to email newsletter cleanup efforts, but we are higher than we were this time last year, and we're closer to hitting that 10,000 mark than we've ever been. So while we didn't technically achieve the goal, I definitely feel like we're on track and we will cross that goal, hopefully in 2025. And then the final goal was to increase revenue by 50%. So you may or may not remember that 2023 was actually a revenue backslide year for City Girl Savings. So I'm very happy to share that in 2024, we're back to like our normal numbers. And we're trending to have increased revenue by 20 to 25% compared to last year. So we're not technically reaching the goal of 50%, but definitely seeing a big improvement, which is really most important. So that's pretty much where I'm at from a personal and business perspective as it relates to goal progress for 2024. And all of that reflection and realizations have played a role in the goals that I've set both for personal and business for 2025. And so I just want to take a second to share with you, if you are setting goals, make sure you are tracking your progress towards those goals. Make sure you are reflecting and assessing what worked and didn't work, and you're using that information to set your next year's goals, right? If you just kind of set goals, don't really pay attention to them, and then the next year comes and you set even more goals, it's not as effective as it can be with you taking the time to reflect and assess and figure out what works and what doesn't work so you can use that information for future goal setting. So just wanted to throw that out there, but let's get to my personal goals for 2025 first. Are you loving this episode so far? Well, the money and life level up conversations never end in the City Girl Savings community. Visit citygirlsavings.com for instant access to resources that help you budget, level up your money mindset, and so much more. And make sure you stay up to date with CGS by following us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at City Girl Savings. So the first goal that I have for 2025 is to walk 12,000 steps a day, Monday through Friday. So I did a good job of hitting 10K steps in 2024, but I noticed that I didn't really lose any weight. Now, I'm very much aware that is probably because of my diet, but I also feel like my body is just used to 10K steps now. So I want to challenge myself to start reaching that 12K steps mark Monday through Friday. I also, kind of piggybacking off this goal, I want to see changes in my weight. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on the scale, but I want to see my clothes fitting better. This means my diet has to be better. So my goal for 2025 is to limit my sugar intake, track my macros so that I can know if I'm in a caloric deficit or not. And I want to do this until I am happy with where my body is. So this goal is a tiny bit vague, and that kind of creeps me out a little bit just because the more specific, the better. But I know with some of the other goals that I have, I think keeping it vague, keeping it a little bit higher level is going to be more effective for me. But 2025, 12K steps Monday through Friday, limit sugar, and track my macros. The next personal goal I have for 2025 is to max out my Roth IRA. The IRS just came out with all of their changes to contribution limits for 2025, and the IRA did not increase, so my goal is $7,000 for the year. Let me just add, since contributing to this Roth IRA is my only form of retirement savings, I have since rolled over my old 401k into this. It will always be a goal of mine just because I am relatively young still, and I have a lot of time before I'm ready to retire. So this will always be a goal, but maxing out my Roth IRA, $7,000 for 2025 is on the list. The next goal I have for 2025 is to see a short-term rental profit. So one goal I did not expect to hit in 2024 was purchasing my second home in Palm Springs. That happened in July, and by mid-September, it was listed on Airbnb, Vrbo, and Furnish Finder. I've had a few bookings and things are looking good so far for 2025. My goal is to see a profit, even if it's a very small profit. I want to have the short-term rental income cover the cost of the property's mortgage, utilities, and HOA fees. If I can do that, I am more than happy. If I can generate a profit, I am over the moon. But I definitely want to take advantage of this opportunity I'm in with this investment property and make sure that I'm being wise with tracking the income and expenses and doing my best to make sure that we actually see a profit, or at the very minimum, break even. The next personal goal I have for 2025 is to read 2 books a month. So I didn't have a specific goal of reading more books in 2024, but I did want to read more in general, and I did. And now I'm ready to take it even further. So in 2025, I want to read, like physically read, not listen. I want to physically read 2 books a month. In 2024, I averaged 1 to 1.5 books a month, so this will be a challenge. You may remember that I had like a next level habit goal of reading as much as I watched TV in 2024, and that didn't really work out. So I'm definitely planning on being more intentional in 2025. And for me, having this kind of set goal is what's going to challenge me to reach it. And the final personal goal I have for 2025 is to save more than I did in 2024. And this is specific to my HSA, my emergency fund, and my general investment accounts. I am not giving myself specific numbers to hit, but I want to make sure that my 2025 savings contributions are more than what I contributed in 2024. So the reason why I'm not giving myself specific amounts is because my income can change drastically. If the business does really well, I get paid more. If some of the other things in my life go well, I get paid more. So I don't want to be specific with how much to save, but I do want to make sure that I am saving more than I did last year. And that is kind of my barometer for making sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my money. Now let's get into my business goals for 2025. So the first business goal or City Girl savings goal for 2025 is to increase revenue by 25% and increase profit margin by 5%. So considering that our revenue increased by 20 to 25% in 2024, I think it's a realistic goal to obtain a 25% increase in revenue for 2025. More than that, though, I'd really like to increase the company's profit margin by 5%. So that means there's 5% more profit than we had in 2024. Now, revenue is a great goal and an indicator of the business, but profit is more important, okay? Profit is the revenue less expenses. So if revenue goes up, but expenses also go up, that isn't necessarily great for a business, right? What's really important is that profit is increasing. So while I definitely do want revenue to increase, I want to make sure that profit increases as well. So this means I'll have to find ways to cut back or spend less in the business during the year, or if we're focused on increasing revenue, just making sure that expenses don't increase along with that revenue. So this particular goal is a little bit more in depth than I've had in terms of financial goals for the business, but I think it's going to be a great way for me to make sure that my eyes are on what's most important as it relates to our business finances. The second goal I have for the business for 2025 is to increase email subscribers by 10%. So the last 2 years, I had a goal of reaching 10,000 newsletter subscribers. And while I'd still be very happy with hitting that number, I don't think having an actual number set as a goal is an accurate representation of growth. And that's because we gain and lose email subscribers over the course of the year. So instead of me focusing on a set number, like having X amount of subscribers, I'd rather focus on growth. So I want to make sure we have 10% more subscribers in 2025. I think that would be a great goal to accomplish. And here's the thing, had I not kind of set this specific 10,000 subscribers goal in the past, I wouldn't have focused as much on what it takes to reach that, right? Like, I don't think I had ever thought about cleaning up our email newsletter and accounting for people coming and going. And so now that I've had that goal for a couple of years, I'm tweaking and tailoring it to make it more realistic for our business and still get to a point where we're seeing growth, just maybe not in exact numeric terms. And the final business goal for 2025 is to have 45,000 City Girl Savings podcast episode downloads. So this would be an increase of 500 more downloads per month on average than we had in 2024. So as I mentioned earlier, City Girl Savings podcast downloads took a hit in 2024. And due to the changing nature of how downloads are tracked and calculated, we really didn't hit our goal. So I'm setting a bit more of a realistic goal for 2025 with 500 more downloads a month. And if we can do that, that should allow us to hit 45,000 downloads for the year. So those are the specific personal and business goals I have for 2025. I do want to share that there are other targets that I'd like to see City Girl Savings improve on in 2025. So like our social media engagement rate, YouTube growth, and website views. But I don't want that to be the primary focus. The goals of increased email subscribers and podcast downloads should have a direct impact on revenue, and that's where I'd like to monitor. We already provide incredible, informative financial content for free, so engagement should naturally go up. What we need to do is ensure that the business improves financially so that we can keep the focus on providing support for everyone, followers, community members, and our paying clients. Now, I want 2025 to be a year of positive change, both in my personal life and in my business. I want to be better financially. I want to be healthier and live a happier life. I want to work hard, but I also want to make sure that I'm taking care of the most important people in my life, and that includes myself. It is definitely a balancing act, but it's one I'm always happy to strive for. So here's to a positive, peaceful, abundant, and successful 2025 year for all of us.
Thank you so much for letting me be the money coach in your ear today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the City Girl Savings Podcast and you feel empowered and motivated to take the next step in the journey to your dream life. Remember, if someone like me, a millennial who loves to travel, new experiences, and iced coffees can live a life they love on a budget, you can too.